he got hit with a slow, creeping illness that ate away at him piece by piece, turning every day into a quiet battle he couldn't win. The only thing keeping him going was a strategy game he played non-stop, losing himself in its world just to forget the pain. He kept playing till the very end, right up to his final breath. But death didn't take him away. Instead, he opened his eyes inside that same world he used to escape to. Now completely powerless, no strength, no skills, just him alone in a kingdom of ruins. Now trapped in the game that once gave him comfort. He's got one choice: fight to survive, claw his way back from nothing, and rise to rule the kingdom that's become his new reality. This one's about Takuto, a guy obsessed with an empire management strategy game called Eternal Nations. Even while stuck in a hospital bed, he kept grinding through the game until the very moment he died playing it. But death wasn't the end, because a second later, he finds himself in a forest, chilling on a throne inside some ancient ruins. And the first thing that hits him is how clean the damn air is. Then a woman walks up to him, asking if he's finally awake. And when she shows her face, he knows right away it's Atu, that elven character from the game. She calls him His Majesty. And that's when Takuto starts thinking what the hell's going on. Being a hardcore anime guy, he quickly figures he must have gotten isekai'd into Eternal Nations. Only thing is, the only person Atu ever calls king is the ruler of Minagra, the same nation Takuto led back when he was still playing. She speaks again, and this time calls him Takuto-sama. She says he's the first person who ever beat the nightmare difficulty using Minagra, the hardest damn civilization in the game. That put him right at the top of the leaderboards, giving him legendary status. Now Takuto's even more lost. How can a game character know stuff from outside her world? But Atu explains that she remembers it all, every win, every loss, every single word he said to her through the screen, like she lived the whole thing right beside him. That hits Takuto hard. He starts tearing up, telling her how happy he is to finally talk to the one character he always cared about most, and Atu says she feels the same. Still, none of this explains how he ended up here, so Takuto asks if she's the one who brought him into this world. Atu says she's got no clue how they ended up here, since she also showed up in this spot just minutes ago. But there's one thing she's sure of: it all feels exactly like Eternal Nations. No matter where they landed, she's glad they finally met for real. And while holding his hands, she tells him they can start their journey all over again from the ground up. She says she wants to build another empire with him. One where it's just the two of them, and since Takuto's got no other reason to keep going, he decides to share that dream with her. As he reaches out for a handshake, Atu suddenly shifts into full scripted mode, calling herself Sludge Atu, a bastard child of a ruined world, swearing that from now on, her mind and body belong to Takuto. She's supposed to be an evil character, but the whole thing comes off super cliché, and both of them end up a bit embarrassed by it. Still, Takuto plays along, and with a straight face says that he and his right hand Atu will build the most wicked empire ever known, Minagra. Takuto then checks if Atu remembers what their first step should be, and she proudly says they need to lock themselves away like true shut-ins so no outsiders can spot them. To make that happen, Takuto uses an emergency summon to call out a scout, this long-legged creepy bug. Since their nation represents evil and decay, all their units look nasty as hell, and this bug is no exception. Takuto tells the scout to scan the area, and Atu adds that it better not let the king down. The bug listens and crawls off right away. Turns out Takuto can actually see everything the scout sees, and that's when they both realize this world works exactly like the game. He takes a second to explain how the summoning works. His total magic power is 200, and bringing out the scout used up 100 MP. Now he's thinking what to do with the leftover energy. He could use 20 MP to build a base, but part of him wonders if it's better to summon a fighter to guard them. Problem is, that costs way more than what he's got right now. In the original game, Atu's a hero unit, which means she's got serious combat skills, but since they're only just starting out, her power level's sitting at a lowly 3. They move on, and thanks to the scout's report, Takuto gets a pretty clear picture of what's around him, mostly trees stretching out forever. That actually makes it the perfect spot to set up Minagra's base, though Atu thinks it's weird that there's no sign of animals or food anywhere nearby. Since it's too risky to explore, Takuto tells the scout to expand its search even farther just to be safe. Atu suddenly looks down, feeling useless for not helping her king, but Takuto tells her she doesn't need to do anything, just having her beside him is more than enough. That line hits her right in the heart, and she falls for him right then and there. While all that's happening, the scout finds something, a camp full of dark elves hiding out. Takuto starts thinking hard. If he walks into someone else's turf by accident, it's gonna cause trouble, so the smart move is to stay low for now. Atu agrees, saying if things go south, they can always make a run for it, which gives Takuto a little boost to keep watching the elves from afar and figure out what they're doing in this place. But then out of nowhere, 3 dark elves pop up and catch them off guard. Takuto's stunned. The same elves he was hoping to avoid are now standing right in front of him. He and Atu try not to panic, and in moments like this, staying chill is the best play, so that's exactly what they do. Meanwhile, the dark elves have no plans to fight anyone. They got kicked out of their city and were just trying to stay alive, leading everyone they could deep into the forest for safety. After all that struggle, they finally find a spot to rest in this cursed land. But they've got no food left, which means their kids won't survive long. Captain Nagi leads what's left of his forces through the accursed woods, but the fear is starting to show. They're wondering if this whole thing was a waste of time. The land's cursed, and food is nowhere to be found. Some of them start whining that they should have stayed and died in the city, since they're probably gonna drop dead here anyway. They talk about the old rumors that say this forest was cursed by some man, and nothing alive can thrive in it. Nagi shuts them down fast. If they give up now, there's no hope left for the kids waiting behind them. He reminds them that those little ones still believe in them, and they've got no choice but to push forward without turning back. Even while pushing forward, he keeps thinking about what they said, and deep down, he knows they weren't wrong. The odds of surviving out here are pretty much crap. But even if his people are scared and ready to quit, he's still their captain. He has to keep leading no matter what. As he gets closer, he suddenly senses Takuto and Atu's presence, and that freaks him out. He panics, thinking if they get attacked now, it's all over. What he does next could shape the fate of his whole race, so he knows he has to handle this smart. When he shows up, he sees Takuto looking like some kind of dark spirit while Atu looks normal. Nagi instantly drops to his knees, and his group follows. He admits they crossed into forbidden land and had no right to be there. Atu steps forward and demands to know why he came, knowing this place was off limits. Nagi explains everything, how they got kicked out of their city, had no time to prepare, the long trek, and how their starving kids are waiting deep in the woods. He's tense as hell, especially with how cold Atu's stare is. He thinks they're about to get wiped out, but then Takuto asks if he's hungry. Nagi stays quiet, but Atu leans in and tells him to answer her master. So he finally says yes. Right away, Takuto summons a bunch of apples. Nagi's never seen one before and doesn't even know it's food. Takuto tells him they're juicy inside and worth trying. Nagi hesitates, unsure if it's a trap, but when he looks around, his soldiers are already munching away. Atu tells him to eat, but he's still stuck. Then Takuto drops some pears too, and now Nagi starts doubting the guy. Nobody ever treats dark elves with kindness. They're used to getting kicked around, so getting help this easy feels off. He tells Takuto he'd rather take the food back to his kids in the forest. Before he can finish, Takuto drops even more fruit in front of him. Nagi's stunned and grateful. Back in the forest, the kids are barely hanging on, just praying for a miracle. That's when they catch a familiar scent, and it hits them. Nagi and the others are back. Not just back, but loaded with food and something they hadn't had in a while, hope. Nagi tells them to get ready to feast, and everyone starts digging in. The starving kids finally eat, starting to recover. One elf asks Nagi where all this food came from, but he doesn't explain a thing. He just says fate smiled at them, though in his head, he can't stop thinking about that dark figure they met earlier. After the meal, everyone gets some solid sleep, while Nagi stays by the fire, keeping watch and turning thoughts over in his head. That's when Elder Molter steps in and pulls him out of it. He thanks him for everything, but says the fruit tasted like nothing he's had in 200 years. Nagi agrees, says it felt strange when he ate it too. Molter asks where it came from, and Nagi tells him they met a legend in the cursed forest. Says they wandered in and ended up face to face with something unreal. Molter starts to wonder if it was the King of Ruins, that old tale about a shadow showing up when the world's too full, tearing it all down and drowning it in darkness. No one knows if it's real since nobody's ever seen it. Molter asks if Takuto gave that title to himself, but Nagi says the man never introduced himself, just spoke through his maid. Molter says a King of Ruins would never give something for free, then asks what Nagi gave in return. Nagi answers it was nothing, just pure kindness. Molter calls bullshit, says no dark force ever gives without a price. Nagi says he helped them with no catch, calls him the Great One. Molter argues that title doesn't fit someone like the King of Ruin. But Nagi stands firm. The man helped them when no one else would. Nagi wonders if they should have died instead of accepting help. But Molter sighs and says maybe he's right. When the time comes to repay that debt, Molter will do the talking, so no one else needs to worry. Nagi watches his people sleep and wonders when they'll finally rest without fear. At the same time, Atu's furious Takuto wasted mana feeding strangers. She snaps at him, clearly pissed. He tries to say he felt bad for them. She's shocked, reminding him they've got no clue what kind of future awaits Minagra, or how much they'll have to fight. She calls it reckless, then backs off, saying she shouldn't have spoken like that to her king. But Takuto reminds her he can't survive here without her. They're a team. He admits when the elves showed up. He froze, maybe because he's awkward around people. Atu hadn't noticed, thought he was just acting the part, speaking through her like some true king. They tease each other for a bit until his pet returns with the latest report. The next morning, Nagi gets set to go see Takuto again, and Elder Molter stops him, asking if he's really ready to stand before the king. He says since they already took food from the Dark King, they should be ready to pay whatever price he puts on that kindness. Nagi pushes back, says Takuto never asked for anything. But Molter says that's just how things work. Evil doesn't help for free. There's always a catch somewhere. Still, he agrees they've got no choice but to rely on Takuto, since nowhere else is safe for them now. They both head toward Takuto, not knowing his insect scout's been spying on them the whole time. Takuto pulls the bug back to report, and once he finds out the elves are on their way, he just hopes they grab the leftover food and leave without making it awkward. He starts to freak out a little, says he's bad at talking and doesn't know how to deal with this kind of stuff. Atu steps in, says she'll handle it, and reminds him it's better this way. The elves need to see they're not even worthy of speaking to their king. Soon after, Molter and Nagi arrive, and the old elf throws out some fancy greeting, thanking Takuto for the food he gave their people. Then he asks if they can know the name of the one who helped them. With a nod from Takuto, Atu gives them the name, declaring him as the Dark King of Ruin. That hits them hard, confirming every fear they had. Atu then tells them to take the food and move along. It won't last long anyway, so no reason to stick around. But Molter says he wants to give something back for the help they got. He asks what they can offer in return. Atu shuts that down real quick, tells them they probably don't have anything that would please her king, so they shouldn't even try. Then she looks them over and asks if they honestly think they have anything valuable left. Molter hesitates, knowing deep down they've got nothing worth offering. Atu catches that pause and shoots him a cold glare, asking if he's planning something. Molter starts losing it, and Takuto can tell things are going downhill fast. He calls over Atu to talk, and she's clearly not having it, says he's going way too soft. To her, those two clowns don't even know how to negotiate, and if this keeps up, they'll end up dragging him down. She throws out the idea of wiping them all out and lining their heads up on pillars like decorations. Takuto tells her to stop acting like she's about to turn the place into a Halloween attraction. He says the elves clearly want peace, and they're trying to repay him out of respect. He suggests asking for something they can offer instead of handing out food for free. Says that'll keep things balanced between both sides. Atu rolls her eyes but agrees, then turns to the elves and announces that her king will accept their offerings. When Molter's face eases up, both Takuto and Atu realize how nervous he really was. Dude legit thought Takuto was one of those bloodthirsty villains. Atu calls him out for that, but then freezes, not sure what to even ask in return. That's when Takuto gets an idea and tells her to ask them for information about the world outside. Molter lights up and swears he'll tell Takuto everything he's seen and heard out there. Atu nods, then adds that once he's done, he and his people gotta pack up and leave the forest. That hits hard, and both he and Nagi flinch at the order. They say they'd prefer to stay under Takuto's protection, but Atu shuts that down real quick, says if they're serious about surviving, they'd better stop acting greedy. Nagi tries to speak, but Molter shuts him up, says the king gave an order and they're gonna follow it. They start heading off, but Takuto watches them go and feels that not in his gut something about it doesn't sit right. Then he gets an idea and calls out, asking Molter and Nagi to stay and become citizens of his kingdom. They're stunned, but not nearly as much as Atu, who turns to him and asks what the hell he's doing. Takuto reminds her about the refugee system in the game, the one that lets them take in other races as full citizens. Since dark elves are neutral, they'll adjust just fine to the kingdom's dark nature and get along with the other species already living here. Atu's still unsure, saying evil-aligned species tend to clash with each other, but Takuto reminds her that their main race, the homunculi, look like humans who got torn apart and stitched back together all wrong, and there's no way they're hanging around with them forever. That image flashes in Atu's head and creeps her out so bad she agrees immediately. She turns to the elves and says Takuto's building a kingdom right here, and he's willing to take them in as citizens if they swear to serve him. Molter's a bit shaken, asks what that means for them, and Atu lays it out plain they'll become evil beings. But she smirks and tells them being evil's a hell of a lot more fun than it sounds. Not long after, Takuto and Atu make their way to the Dark Elves' camp, where everyone's lined up waiting. The sight of him sends chills down spines, and some of the weaker ones just drop after one look. Takuto sits on his throne, Atu right by his side, and she tells the elves they're now becoming citizens of the Dark Kingdom of Minagra. She checks one last time if Takuto's sure, and when he nods, it's done. The elves are officially in, and Atu welcomes them, saying their survival and safety now rest in their king's hands. Nagi stands there confused, thinking that becoming evil would feel different somehow. Then he says it out loud, and damn near regrets it right away. Hate starts bubbling up in him and the others like a fire, and they start remembering every bit of pain their people ever went through. They want payback, and the two regular elves with them start getting real nervous. Seeing how messed up everyone looks, Takuto quietly asks if they're okay. Nagi can't hold back his tears, realizing for the first time that someone actually cares about him and his people. The Dark Elves begin cheering Takuto's name, crying as they do, and he just sits there, kind of overwhelmed by the whole thing. A few days later, Takuto gets a map of the whole continent from Molter, and the second he sees it, he damn near collapses. Atu asks what's up, and he points at the map, telling her to take a look and see how crap their starting point is. Turns out, they're stuck on a continent already home to two massive overpowered nations. One of them is the Holy Kingdom of Qualia, a human nation worshipping the creator Arlos, and they're pure good-aligned fanatics. Then there's Elna, the Alliance of Elementals, where nature-worshipping elves live, and they're also on the good side. Atu takes one look and freaks out, saying if either side finds out about their kingdom, they're screwed. She drops next to Takuto, but he pulls himself together and says as long as they don't get caught, they've still got time to grow. He reminds her that in the game, their homunculi were dumb as rocks and couldn't research anything. But now that they've got Dark Elves, they've actually got a shot at getting smarter. Not long after that, the Dark Elves come visit again, and this time Nagi brings along someone new, his assistant Emily. He tells Takuto she's got brains, knows a lot about other kingdoms, and will be way more useful than any of them. Atu nods, says the king's pleased with their efforts, then adds that they'll be stepping into bigger roles now, because it's what Takuto wants. First thing she does is make Molter the head of internal affairs. She says she expects a lot from him, especially since she found out he's got magic under his belt. Then she looks at Nagi and names him head warrior of Minagra, tells him to start building a serious army to keep them safe. She puts full control of recruitment in his hands, and he gets all fired up, shouting about how he'll wipe out their enemies and hang their heads as trophies. Takuto's already grossed out and says that kind of stuff is savage. Atu turns to the confused elf and explains that their king is more into peace than bloodshed, so he better chill. That leaves Nagi scratching his head, wondering why the hell a Dark King of Ruin would care about peace. Molter smirks and throws a jab, says unlike Nagi's musclehead ass, he's got brains and will actually be useful. That hits Nagi's pride hard, and he fires back, telling Takuto he's young, strong, and can work without breaks if needed, ready to prove he's not just some meathead. Atu has no clue they're just trying to win Big Evil Daddy's attention. She just thinks they're a couple of overworked maniacs. She turns to Takuto and asks if they should throw them a task to gather supplies or something, and he suggests making them clean up the area and build a few homes while they're at it. She passes that on to Molter right away, tells him to gather timber for housing, but to leave most of the forest untouched. Molter nods fast, says it won't be a problem since Dark Elves are used to living in the woods anyway. Takuto then tells them to regrow the areas they chopped down, but that throws the elves off. They don't know what the word even means. Takuto picks up on it quick, figures their civilization's too behind to even grasp reforesting, so he asks if they at least know about military magic or the 6 major elements. Molter says he's only heard of 4, and Emily says she's never come across any country using something called military magic. Takuto and Atu glance at each other, realizing this world's way more primitive than they expected, but that might be a damn good thing. If they level up their magic tech fast, they can steamroll other nations in no time. Atu takes the chance to explain what reforesting is, says it's when you grow new trees where old ones were cut. The elves say they kinda do that, but not with magic. Atu grins and starts making stuff up, saying reforesting uses 6 elements to speed up the process, then shamelessly gives Takuto credit like he invented it. She keeps hyping him up, says he's the genius behind those tasty fruits they ate, and adds that grapes are her absolute favorite. Emily jumps in too, says she planted some of the grape seeds and a few sprouts already popped up. That surprises Takuto. He didn't think anything would grow in this place. But then it hits him if he can magically recreate earth fruits here. Maybe he can make other stuff too. To test it, he tries creating a coin. And when that works, he realizes he can probably produce things like gunpowder and all kinds of scientific crap. That gives him a serious edge, one that could push his kingdom way ahead of everyone else. At the same time, over in the Holy Kingdom of Qualia, things are heating up too. Saint Selena's out leading a squad of knights through some snowy foothills, dealing with monsters that have been bothering the nearby villages. The second those goblins come charging in, she lifts her staff and torches them to ash with her holy flame. That fire shoots up into the clouds, and once the smoke clears, sunlight hits the scorched earth, and a bunch of flowers pop up. The knight captain turns to his crew, saying that Selena's magic not only burns up nasty monsters, but also leaves a damn flower garden behind. He adds that thanks to her, they've got a good thing going with the elves. Right after that, she tells the cardinal he needs to send paladins south instead, since she got some creepy vision about something going down in the cursed forest. He straight up refuses, saying the forest's all the way at the edge of the continent and he can't make a move without getting the higher-ups involved. Selena says screw that, threatens to head out herself if he won't help. The cardinal tries to push back, but in the end, he gives in and promises to send whatever troops he can round up on his own. Meanwhile, Takuto and Atu are busy building up their turf, starting with new homes for the Dark Elves. They've already got a temporary throne room set up around Takuto's throne, and he's hyped to finally hold meetings and talk shop with his top citizens. Then Molter, Nagi, and Imlay show up, and Atu tells them it's time to kick off their first council meeting. But before they start, Emily hands Takuto a gift, some fresh clothes that make him look like a damn femboy. He's thankful for the outfit since his old stuff's getting pretty nasty, and he thanks the elves for hooking him up. They don't really see much difference, but they trust Atu when she says he looks awesome in it. With that handled, she gets the meeting started, but Takuto's too busy fangirling over himself in the new fit. Atu just rolls with it, runs the meeting herself, and says she'll ask for his input when needed. He's totally cool with that plan. Once the meeting kicks off, Molter asks Atu what kind of buildings they should start throwing up first. She tells him food production's gotta come before anything else, then pulls out this freaky looking plant and says it'll be their main food source for now. The elves look straight up horrified, asking her what the hell it even is. Atu calmly explains it's called the flesh plant, something unique to their civilization. It grows meat that tastes like human flesh, and apparently it's super nutritious. That info doesn't sit right with the elves, who quickly say they don't go around munching on humans. Atu laughs it off, telling them this is just a temporary thing till they get better options growing. Then she says they also need to set up storage buildings and supply sheds near the farms. Emily jumps in and volunteers to handle that part. Next on Atu's list is research, because she says small nations like theirs gotta get smarter if they want to survive. Molter asks what kind of tech they should look into, and she tells him to focus on magic technology. Takuto lights up at the idea, and Molter says he's all in, ready to impress as a mage. He wants to know exactly what to work on, so Atu breaks it down military magic. She explains regular spells only hit a few targets, but advanced combat magic can wipe out whole cities and reshape the battlefield. She tells Molter to gather all the talented elven mages and get cracking on that research. He's fired up about creating magic that's never existed before. Then Atu shifts the convo to military strategy, and Nagi perks up since it's finally his turn. But Takuto shuts it down fast, saying they're not about to dump resources into building a massive army. Atu backs him up, pointing out that armies cost a fortune and don't give anything back when there's no war going on. Nagi pushes back, saying their forces aren't even strong enough to protect Takuto right now. Molter jumps in too, reminding them that both he and Nagi have bounties on their heads, and it's only a matter of time before enemies come knocking. Takuto hears them out and says he's got a better idea. He's gonna create a hero to defend them. Atu agrees, saying heroes might be expensive to summon, but they don't need maintenance, which makes them a damn good deal for where the kingdom's at. The elves have no idea what a hero even is, so Atu breaks it down. Heroes are insanely powerful beings that serve right under the king. She explains there are certain conditions to summon each one, but she's pretty sure they'll be able to summon their first hero soon. Takuto's all fired up about it. He starts thinking about how everything in this world runs on mana, and the only way a kingdom can generate mana is through its people. The happier the people, the more mana they produce, and Takuto swears he's gonna turn his kingdom into the happiest place on the damn planet. Over in the Holy Kingdom of Qualia, a junior paladin named Lornias gets picked to join a team headed to the Cursed Forest. He's got a senior paladin tagging along named Wordle, and that guy's favorite hobby is messing with Lornias, who's always way too stiff and formal. Wordle grumbles that the team's way too small, just 2 paladins and a few hired swords. He says the church should take Selena's warning a lot more seriously. Lornias agrees deep down, but he also knows better than to question the higher-ups. If this mission goes well, they'll be heroes. But if it fails, you can bet your ass all the blame's landing square on him. Back in Minagra, Takuto's checking out how things are going with his kingdom. Seeing it all unfold in front of him hits different. He's used to watching the early stages of his civilization from behind a screen, but now he's living it. Emily gives him the full tour, explaining how dark elves are known for building homes in trees. But right now the construction's going slow because they're putting their energy into growing flesh trees. Those trees are thriving though, and the storage sheds and management facilities are already up and running. She also tells him they found a freshwater spring nearby, and they're working on figuring out how to pull water from it. Over in the new research building, Molter and the other mages are grinding hard on the magic tech stuff. Takuto's happy to hear everything's running smooth, but what gets him even more hyped is knowing the elves are taking initiative, trying to find water and improve things themselves. He mentions how much better they look now compared to when they first arrived back. Then they were tired and broken, but now they look alive. Emily starts tearing up when she hears that, crying right in front of him. Takuto freaks out a little, not sure what to do, but she pulls herself together and keeps the tour going. She takes them over to the flesh tree farm next, saying that thanks to the tools Takuto provided, they're almost ready for their first harvest. Then she shows them the water source the elves found earlier, but the whole vibe around it feels off this time. The water's gone dark, and Emily looks bummed out, thinking it's probably ruined now. Before Atu can step in, Molter and Nagi show up to check it out too. They agree with Imle it looks pretty damn unusable, but Atu walks up, takes a sip without hesitation, and tells them it's perfectly fine to drink. She explains the change is because this area is now part of Minagra, thanks to something called the Cursed Terrain. Takuto tells the elves to take a deep breath, and suddenly they feel clear-headed and full of energy. Atu breaks it down. Cursed terrain boosts beings with evil alignment while weakening neutral or good aligned ones. Since the dark elves are part of Minagra now, they're considered evil, which means this water is totally safe for them. Nagi drinks some himself to confirm it, and Atu adds that pretty soon, the entire forest will be under cursed terrain too. Takuto, though, isn't completely sold. He points out that the terrain change makes the forest look way too obvious. Molter agrees, saying once the whole place turns dark and eerie, enemies will be able to spot them from miles away. Nagi takes this chance to push for building an army again, but Atu and Takuto shut that down, reminding him they've got a hero on the way. Molter still doesn't fully get what a hero even is, so Atu figures it's time for a demonstration. Without warning, she sprouts shadowy tentacles from her back and slices through a bunch of nearby trees like they're nothing. Then she tells them she's a hero herself, and even though this is only 1% of her actual power, she could wipe out entire armies with ease. Takuto proudly tells the stunned elves that heroes are the real deal. They keep leveling up on their own, even if they don't lift a damn finger. But then he scolds Atu for going overboard with the whole tree cutting thing and tells her to clean it up later. The elves, on the other hand, are blown away. They say Takuto must be some legendary figure to have someone like her serving him. They immediately decide to build him a proper palace, but he brushes it off, saying he doesn't need anything fancy right now. The elves insist though, saying their king shouldn't be living in the same wooden homes as them. Atu backs them up too, telling Takuto that building a palace will lift the people's spirits, and that alone makes it worth it. Takuto gives in, telling them he wants a flying fortress someday, but for now a regular palace will do just fine. While that mess is unfolding, the investigation squad led by Lornias and Wordle finally starts making their way south toward the cursed forests. Wordle's still grumbling about how damn tiny their squad is, but Lornias shuts him down, saying this is literally the best the Empire could spare. Most of the military's tied up handling chaos up north after a swarm of evil-aligned creatures showed up out of nowhere, burning towns to the ground and dragging folks off. Every able body got shipped off to deal with that disaster, leaving scraps for anything else. Hearing that, the hired mercs start whispering among themselves, saying whoever got sent north is screwed. Even if the money was tempting, they're glad as hell they didn't pull that job, especially with the rumor going around about some psycho witch being behind it all. They want no part in anything involving witches. Lornia's curious about this rumor, pulls aside one of the mercs, a dude named Bargo, and asks what he knows. Bargo says people are saying a single witch is stirring up all that northern madness, but Lornias doesn't buy it, saying there's no way in hell one person could control that many monsters. Bargo nods fast, saying it's probably some cult crap instead. But then Wordle cuts in, telling Bargo to shut his damn mouth before he jinxes them all. Lornias instantly snaps at Wordle, catching the guy sneaking another drink on the job. He starts chewing him out, reminding him that as paladins serving their gods, so alcohol's off limits. Wordle brushes him off, offering to argue theology right then and there, but loses interest the second a waitress drops off more booze. He starts flirting without a care in the world. Bargo turns back to Lornias, asking why the Empire even bothered sending 2 paladins down this far. He admits he's worried there's another witch involved, and says straight up that if that's true, he and his guys are bouncing before things go sideways. Lornias tells him he doesn't know all the details either, but Wordle jumps in again looking smug as hell. Turns out he squeezed some info from his new waitress friend. Apparently a bunch of dark elves recently ran into the cursed forests, and the higher-ups want someone to keep tabs on them. That puts Bargo at ease, says they'd better deal with those bastards quick. Dark elves are infamous for nasty curses and sneaky assassinations. Lornias agrees completely, saying if they ignore the dark elves now, it's only gonna come back and bite them harder later. But Wordle tells him to chill, reminding him this mission is recon only. If things start going south, they're packing it in and getting the hell out. Lornias, ever the hard-headed holy warrior, says that's not how they roll. If evil shows its face, they crush it, retreats, never on the damn table for a real paladin. Wordle throws a sharp look at Lornias, telling him to quit chasing damn glory and only draw his blade when it actually matters. Not every damn time there's a whiff of danger. He reminds him they've all got folks back home, including him, so they better think twice before throwing their lives away like it's nothing. Back in Minagra, the first batch of flesh tree fruit is finally ripe and stacked high on a huge altar in the middle of town. Takuto stands in front of the pile while the dark elves surround him, eyes glued to the scene, waiting to see what kind of madness their king's about to pull. Without a word, Takuto pumps his mana into the fruit, and right there in front of everyone, it twists and mutates into one massive bug monster. The elves lose it, jaws dropping as they watch him literally bring a creature to life out of thin air. Atu instantly starts hyping him up, shouting that this miracle ain't even 1% of what their king can do. She tells them if they keep worshipping him like they should, he'll grow even stronger and pull off things way crazier than this. The crowd erupts, cheering their king like he's a god. Later on, Takuto slumps back onto his throne, feeling relieved he managed to trade fruit for a monster. It was a standard feature in the old game, but it still blows his mind how any of this actually works in the real world. Atu, chill as always, says screw the logic, they've got a working system now, and they can crank out more creatures to build the kingdom up. She's fired up and says it's time to kick off the next phase. Takuto agrees, saying he'll summon a hero as soon as they've stored up enough mana to do it right. Atu leans in, curious who he has in mind, and he tells her he's thinking of Isla, queen of the bugs. But she nods, saying that's a damn solid call. Takuto gets all into it, explaining Isla's abilities, how she can boost every insect monster they've got, turning the battlefield into a slaughterhouse, and how she can hatch larvae to handle all the boring behind-the-scenes stuff, keeping everything running smooth. Atu grins, glad to see he's not winging it this time, and Takuto admits she was honestly the only sane pick. The rest of the hero pool's full of psychos. Atu laughs, saying those maniacs need 5 years of therapy before they see daylight. Takuto chuckles, saying maybe one day he'll call them up too, but not now. At the same time, Lornias and the crew finally step foot on the Dark Continent, and they barely get a chance to breathe before they run into their first real threat, a massive damn hill giant blocking the path. Lornias jumps straight into action, barking orders at the mercenaries to fall into formation. But Wordle raises a hand, cuts him off, and tells everyone to relax. He says he'll handle this oversized bastard solo, and that they shouldn't waste time trying to help. With everyone watching, Wordle strolls toward the giant like it's no big deal, not even blinking at the thing's ridiculous size, his sword casually in hand. He channels holy energy through his blade, while the hill giant, oddly respectful for a monster, stands there waiting like it's giving him a fair shot. The giant finally swings its club with brutal force, but Wordle blocks it with ease and slices the whole damn thing in half like it's made of paper. Before the beast even realizes what just happened, Wordle flashes forward and unleashes a storm of slashes so fast it doesn't even get a chance to react. The giant drops like a sack of rocks. Wordle turns and walks back calm as ever, like all he did was take a quick morning jog. Lornias can't hold back his excitement, calling Wordle a damn beast and saying this mission's practically wrapped now that he's around. But the look on Wordle's face shuts that down quick. His serious stare brings the whole squad back to reality, and even Lornias starts to feel uneasy. Meanwhile, back in Minagra, Takuto's chillin' with a burger, enjoying the hell out of it, while Atu gives him a light scolding for not eating something better. Takuto grins, telling her he's spent way too long in hospitals surviving off tasteless meals, and now he's treating himself to the world of greasy heaven. Then he starts getting concerned that Atu's been living off salads for days, but she just smiles and says this is exactly what works for her. They kick back and talk about how construction's been going crazy fast lately, until something clicks in Takuto's head. He tells Atu to gather Molter and the others once they're done eating, since the new scout bugs finished mapping the nearby terrain. He says he's ready to deal with a human town they discovered close to the border, but first asks Atu to double-check if the place falls under the Holy Kingdom of Qualia. She thinks it's independent, which is a huge relief for Takuto. It means they might be able to handle things without a fight. He stays hopeful they can talk it out without shit going sideways, and Atu immediately teases him for jinxing it. Takuto laughs, saying there's no way something that wild's gonna happen. But right then, one of the scout bugs delivers a high-priority alert. An armed group's heading straight for their forest. Takuto's whole vibe changes on the spot. He tells Atu they'll try to keep things peaceful if they can, but if it turns ugly, they better be ready to throw down. At the same time, the armed group marching into the forest is none other than Lornia's and Wordle's crew. As they move deeper, Wordle suddenly throws up a hand, telling everyone to hold up. He's picked up on something or someone heading their way. Moments later, Atu steps out from the trees, dressed in shadowy clothes that make it impossible to recognize her. Wordle immediately asks who she is, and she calmly says she's a dark elf who came here with her people, because they've got nowhere else left to go. Wordle nods slightly, acknowledging her reason, but straight up tells her they've got orders to investigate this forest, so she needs to step aside. Atu firmly refuses and says they shouldn't go any deeper, which instantly sets off red flags in Wordle's mind. But before he can dig further, Lornias butts in, barking at Atu, demanding how she dares stand in the way of someone serving God. Wordle spins around and tells him to shut the hell up and quit making a scene. Lornias looks pissed, shocked that Wordle snapped at him over something he sees as minor. But Wordle doesn't even flinch, turns right back to Atu, saying they can't leave just because she tells them to, then asks straight up if there's something hidden in this forest. Atu stays calm and says there's nothing here but elves who want to live in peace, then asks why they're so damn determined to come charging into this cursed forest. Wordle stays quiet for a second, then lets out a sigh and finally explains the truth. The Saintess recently had a vision. She saw a powerful evil hiding in this place, and Wordle says he's not leaving until he sees for himself if it's real. The mercenaries around them freeze, shocked out of their minds. They hadn't heard a word about this vision before now. Lornias damn near explodes, demanding to know how Wordle could drop something that big without warning, like it's some tavern gossip. Wordle fires back, saying there are times when you need to speak the truth out loud. But Lornias looks like he's about to pop a vein, yelling that Wordle's way out of line, and even a top-tier paladin doesn't get to reveal divine prophecies without permission from above. But then Wordle politely asks Atu if they can at least take a quick look around inside, trying to keep things from spiraling. That's when her whole vibe suddenly flips. She coldly tells them there's absolutely nothing inside worth wasting their precious time on. Her tone sharpens as she urges them to turn back now. Lornia's already on edge, loses it. He's furious that some dark elf would dare talk down to a divine mission. The air around Atu grows heavy, her presence turning dark, and Lornia's is now convinced that something wicked is hiding in those woods. Wordle, though, still seems open to talk, trying to calm things down. He asks her to swear on her own god that nothing in the forest threatens the holy kingdom of Qualia. Without flinching, Atu swears by her deity, even saying they fear Qualia far more than Qualia should ever fear them. That's enough for Wordle, says they're done here, officially calling off the mission. Lornia's is stunned, completely blindsided, and immediately protests. He insists it's obvious she's hiding something big, but Wordle fires back, calling him a paranoid coward who's letting his fear speak louder than his faith. He says they've seen nothing worth fighting over, and that ends the investigation. With that, Wordle turns and walks away without hesitation. But Lornia's finally snaps, says Wordle's gone too far, and announces he's stripping him of command for spilling divine secrets to the enemy and bailing on his sacred duty. Then he orders the mercenaries to follow him deeper into the forest to uncover whatever evil's hiding in there. Bargo jumps at the order. After all, Lornia's is the one signing his checks, and arguing with your boss doesn't pay well. Atu pleads with them one last time to back off, but Lornia's doesn't even glance at her. He coldly tells his men to seize her, even as Wordle yells at him not to push things any further. Atu sighs quietly, knowing this was the end of diplomacy. And then it happens. In a flash, the mercenaries are impaled by her spikes, turned into human shish kebabs before they even realize what's going on. Lornia's takes a brutal hit to the head and blacks out, never knowing what struck him. The only one left standing is Wordle, wide-eyed and shaken, shouting that they're not just up against some elf, she's a damn witch. Then Atu calmly steps forward, dropping her disguise and saying it's a shame things had to end like this. Peace was never really an option. Thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, it makes all the difference.